Nike just released a brand new commercial featuring Caitlin Clark and her new Kobe shoe that she released today. And I saw this commercial yesterday on social media. I thought it was so cool. There's a shot when she's in the locker room and she opens her eye and it like turns into what looks like a snake eye, but when you zoom in, it's actually the Kobe logo.
If you really wanted that shoe, I hope you put your footwork in, because there's supposedly only 13,000 pairs on Sneakers App tomorrow. Combine that with a really high resale value, I expect this shoe to be a relatively difficult comp. But my hope seriously is that with Caitlin Clark's sneaker coming out, that this sets a precedent and we might see other exclusive player edition Kobe's drop for the public.
For decades, Nike has operated like a flawless machine. Think of it as a star-making factory, a corporate kingdom with a secret, time-tested recipe for turning elite athletes into cultural gods. It's a careful, deliberate process built on a foundation of championships, curated stories, and meticulous brand building. They identify the chosen one, they invest years, they build the narrative, and then they present their monarch to the world. It's the playbook that gave us Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and Serena Williams. It's a formula that has almost never failed. But in 2024, a 22-year-old from Iowa became the one variable their formula could never have predicted. A human glitch in their perfectly coded matrix. She didn't just challenge the system. She arrived like a force of nature and broke it. And the aftershocks are forcing Nike to question everything it thought it knew about what it takes to build a legend. This isn't just about a new shoe or a new commercial. This is the story of how one athlete's explosive, organic popularity threw the world's biggest marketing machine into a fascinating, high-stakes scramble. To understand the earthquake, you first have to understand the architecture. Nike's playbook is built on meritocracy and patience. You prove yourself, you win, you dominate, and then you get the crown. And by every metric in that playbook, A'ja Wilson was the undisputed heir to the throne. Two-time WNBA MVP, a Defensive Player of the Year award, a WNBA championship, and a Finals MVP trophy to go with it, an Olympic gold medal. She is, by all accounts, one of the most dominant and decorated players on the planet. So Nike did what Nike does. They began Project A'ja. They invested years and millions of dollars into crafting her brand. They gave her a historic contract extension, reportedly worth over $20 million. For 2 full years, their top designers worked in secret to develop her signature shoe, the A'ja 1 Ace. They let her pour her soul into it, embedding Celtic symbols for her parents and quotes from her grandmother into the design. It was the coronation she had earned, the culmination of the Nike playbook, executed to perfection. She was their meticulously crafted queen, and her reign was set to begin. But while Nike's architects were carefully laying the bricks of A'ja's kingdom, a statistical anomaly was happening in college basketball. A player named Caitlin Clark was single-handedly rewriting viewership records. Her games weren't just sporting events. They were national television appointments. She was generating an estimated $80 million in economic impact for the state of Iowa. Her jerseys were selling out. She wasn't just a great player, she was a cultural current, pulling in millions of fans who had never watched a women's basketball game before. She was a phenomenon that existed completely outside of Nike's controlled ecosystem. Naturally, when Clark declared for the WNBA draft, a bidding war erupted. Adidas, Under Armour, and Puma all came to the table, but Nike, the reigning king, secured her signature with an 8-year, $28 million deal. On the surface, it looked like a standard move, the biggest brand signing the biggest prospect. But under the surface, a clock started ticking. The public, now conditioned to Clark's meteoric rise, expected an immediate coronation. They wanted the signature shoe, the massive campaigns, the works, but they were about to run headfirst into the slow, deliberate pace of the Nike machine. As the WNBA season started, the narrative began to form. Nike is fumbling Caitlin Clark. The whispers grew into shouts. Clark was on the court, driving unprecedented ticket sales and TV ratings, all while wearing Kobe Protrozan existing shoe line. A former Nike basketball marketing director, Jordan Rogers, even went public, calling out his old company for slow-playing the single biggest needle mover in sports. The pressure was immense. To the outside world, it looked like Nike had captured lightning in a bottle and had no idea what to do with it. They were treating a hurricane like a light summer breeze, sticking to a plan that was becoming more obsolete with every sold-out arena Clark visited. This is where the story gets nuanced. The hand-me-down narrative, while catchy, misses a critical piece of basketball culture. For a player of Clark's caliber, being given a player exclusive, or pay, of the Kobe line isn't a slight. It's a profound honor. The Kobe signature line is widely considered the pinnacle of performance basketball footwear. The best of the best wear Kobes. By giving Clark her own exclusive Indiana Fever colorway of the iconic Kobe 5 Protro, Nike wasn't sidelining her. They were unofficially anointing her, placing her on a footwear pedestal reserved for the game's elite. It was a strategic, if misunderstood, move. But what happened next proved that even Nike may have underestimated the power they were dealing with. On release day, Nike dropped a reported 13,000 pairs of the Caitlin Clark Kobe 5 Pay. It was a digital earthquake. The Nike SNKRS app, a platform designed to handle hype drops for the most coveted shoes in the world, simply couldn't handle the traffic. It buckled, it broke. The shoes sold out in what can only be described as seconds, not minutes, seconds, immediately. The resale market exploded. The $190 shoe was listed for $350, then $500, then over $600 on platforms like Stocks and Goat. It wasn't a product release, it was a cultural event that demonstrated a level of demand that was, frankly, unprecedented in women's sports. It was the market screaming a message so loud that no one, especially not in Nike's headquarters, could ignore it, and it seems Nike finally heard it. Just as the hype from the shoe drop was peaking, they released a new commercial. It wasn't a group ad, it wasn't a generic brand spot, it was a solo commercial. Entirely focused on Caitlin Clark, the ad is brilliant in its simplicity and symbolism. It opens with Clark in the locker room, and as she opens her eye, the pupil morphs at first glance. It looks like the eye of a snake, a nod to Kobe Bryant's Black Mamba persona. But when you look closer, you realize it's not just a snake. It's the shape of the Kobe logo itself. It was Nike's first massive public signal that they understood this wasn't just another athlete. This was the heir to the Mamba mentality, a killer on the court whose impact transcended the game. It was the architect finally acknowledging the power of the hurricane. Let's be clear, the numbers paint a staggering picture. A'ja Wilson's signature shoe sold out its limited initial run in about 5 minutes, an impressive feat by any standard. But Caitlin Clark's shoe moved 13,000 pairs in a matter of seconds and crashed a multi-billion-dollar company's infrastructure. When Clark's merchandise hits the market, it doesn't just sell, it creates a feeding frenzy. This isn't an indictment of A'ja's star power, which is significant. It's a testament to the fact that Clark's appeal operates on a completely different, almost incomprehensible scale. She has what marketers dream of: an authentic, organic connection to the masses that cannot be manufactured. Now, we have to put ourselves in A'ja Wilson's shoes for a moment. Imagine being the reigning champion, the MVP, the player who has done everything the right way according to the old rules. You've waited patiently for your moment, and you've earned it. Then, a rookie enters the league and, through no fault of her own, commands a level of global attention that eclipses everything. In a Time magazine piece, Wilson spoke about the racial dynamics at play in the coverage, a deeply important and valid conversation. Her frustrations are not just understandable, they are human. She's a proud champion navigating a media storm that constantly and unfairly frames her accomplishments. In relation to a rookie's unprecedented fame, she's not just competing on the court. She's competing with a phenomenon.
So it's finally here. Caitlin Clark sneakers from Nike is finally dropping. She was signed to them last year, and the sneakers is a year late in my opinion, but nonetheless I'm excited because these sneakers is finally coming out. But what does annoy me a little bit is that this is a collaboration with Kobe. Now, Kobe, respect to Kobe, legend, rest in peace, great basketball player. But in my opinion, Caitlin Clark is a big enough star and she's creating her own legacy. So I feel like, at least for her first sneaker, it shouldn't be a collaboration with any other player, dead or alive, in my opinion. I feel like Caitlin should have, for her first shoe, had her own original design just for her, no collaboration.
This dynamic was, of course, weaponized by the media and online commentators. It was immediately framed as A'ja versus Caitlin, a catfight narrative that does a disservice to both women. It became a story of the hardworking, overlooked black woman versus the privileged white newcomer. This is a gross oversimplification. Both are generational talents. But the media machine loves conflict, and it built a narrative that pitted them against each other, forcing them to answer for a rivalry that was largely created for clicks and ratings. Nike, caught in the middle, initially stayed silent, which only added more fuel to the fire. But here's the key piece of context that gets lost in all the drama. Nike never actually fumbled. They were just operating on their own, notoriously slow. Internal timeline: the creation of a signature shoe. From initial concept to design, prototyping, testing, and finally, manufacturing is an 18 to 24-month process. Clark signed her deal in April 2024. Her signature shoe was never going to be ready for her rookie season. It was an impossibility. The Kobe Pay was a brilliant stopgap, a way to capitalize on her hype while the real, painstaking work on Caitlin 1 inch was happening behind the scenes. Her shoe is coming, and when it does, the demand will likely be astronomical. What this whole situation reveals is that Caitlin Clark represents a new kind of stardom. The legends of the past were built by legacy media and corporate endorsements. Their stories were told for them. Clark's fame is different. It's decentralized, born from social media clips, viral moments, and a direct-to-consumer charisma that bypasses traditional gatekeepers. Michael Jordan became a global icon through TV commercials and championship DVDs. Caitlin Clark became one through TikTok edits and record-breaking ESPN ratings. Nike's old playbook was designed for the former, and they've had to learn in real time how to play in the world of the latter. This leaves Nike playing a fascinating and incredibly high-stakes game of chess. They have two queens on the board. One is the architect's queen, powerful, respected, and a product of their proven system. The other is the people's queen, a wildcard whose power they are still learning to measure and wield. How do they promote Clark's meteoric rise without it feeling like a slight to their reigning champion? On A'ja Wilson, how do they honor A'ja's legacy and accomplishments while also capitalizing on the single most marketable force in modern sports? Their recent commercial was the first step. It was a declaration that they can and will celebrate Clark's unique fire. Now, they face the challenge of doing the same for A'ja, but in a way that feels equally authentic to her brand of quiet, undeniable dominance. So, where does this leave us? Nike now finds itself at a crossroads, holding two different, yet equally powerful, winning hands. One was carefully cultivated in their state-of-the-art lab. The other struck their headquarters like lightning. This is no longer about choosing one star over the other. It's about Nike being forced to rip up its own rulebook and write a new one in real time. A new playbook for a new era. They have to build a kingdom that can house both an architect and a hurricane. The real question is no longer who is the face of the league, but can the world's biggest marketing machine successfully navigate a storm it didn't create? And what does that mean for the future of every athlete, brand, and fan? What do you think Nike's next move should be? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories behind the headlines. Thanks for watching.